And so I'm a Texan, grew up in San Antonio, Texas. It's sunny, bright. Have you ever been there? You'll love it. If you haven't, please visit. It was a wonderful experience. My family's from Georgia, so I would spend every summer there. And went to college at Spelman, which was fantastic. Again, if you've never visited, you'll love it. Um, Graduated a math major and moved up to Boston, froze. I was in the internet industry, so I know everyone's like, oh, I thought Al Gore invented that. That's what I hear all the time. But I was with the company that invented the internet, BBN, Bulk Brand Communion. And I was in sales, had a great experience there, but froze, literally froze. And I was like, if I don't leave by year 7, I'm going to die. I left. I went back to business school at Duke. North Carolina was amazing. Visit, you'll love it. And from there, I actually joined Procter & Gamble. I've been in branding. I've been in nonprofit with the American Heart Association. I've been in finance, and I've kind of hopped around a few places. And so that's been a really great experience, just kind of meeting new pods of people and finding just wonderful things about America. And throughout all that, I ended up actually marrying someone I met in school, Robert. And Robert and I are now in Mobile, Alabama, and I am financial services, and I also do a little brand work as well. So my whole life is quite interesting, but my first major struggle was a medical one, and it started when I was 18. So as I said, I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, never missed a day of school, bright skies, everything was amazing. I was a good girl, good student, just across the board. I got to Spelman, and within the first month, I was walking across campus. It was September 28th, a Friday. I was walking across campus, and clear as day, I heard and I was just like, what is that? And it was morning, so I was kind of like, well, did my ankle pop? Did my wrist pop? Like, I know it was a pop, or was it a pop? Because I couldn't identify where it came from. And then I said, well, am I imagining this? Like, what is this? And I kept thinking, and my mind is racing, and I'm starting to kind of look around. And so I'm in this area of campus, on Spelman's campus, called the Oval. And it's kind of the area, nice grassy area that's kind of between all the buildings, on my way to the computer science building for my first class. And I noticed, looking at a tree, there was so much, it just seemed like energy coming from this tree. Like, I had never seen the bark as alive. Like there was an energy force around it. And I looked down at the grass, and the grass is just more green. I've never seen something so beautiful. And it was just splendid. I can't even describe it. Almost like I was in a cartoon. It just didn't even look real to some degree. And I was like, what is going on? I said, my eyes must be watering. And I kind of did like this. And I kept walking and still wondering, just completely bewildered, like, what's going on? And when I got to the building, I noticed everybody was standing outside. It was about 7, probably 58, so I was probably right on time for the 8 o'clock class, but for some reason, no one was inside. So I asked, hey, what's going on? And someone said, excuse me? And I said, why are we standing outside? Like, what's happening? And they were like, excuse me? And like one or two came around, and they kind of leaned in, and they were trying to understand. And I was like, what's happening? Why aren't we inside? And then they kind of called other people over. And so now I had an audience. And I was like, why do I have an audience? And so I asked myself, so I tried to say it one more time, and I realized I said, whoa, 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 whoa. And that's when my mind I just lost it. The doors opened, everything kind of happened at the same time, but I think I was just in a complete state of shock that I finally listened to myself. And what I thought I was saying was coming out the way you just heard. And I was completely confused. I didn't know what else I needed to do. So I went into the classroom and decided, let me just try to be quiet and not bring attention to myself while I try to figure this out on my own, because I'm an independent woman, because I'm a freshman in college. So I was trying to just figure it out, and I left the class. I went to the restroom and looked at myself, and what's wrong with me? And nothing looked wrong with me. And so I finished class, went back to my dorm, studied for my philosophy test, went to class and to take my philosophy test, and realized as I was trying to complete the test, I couldn't write without really, really thinking about it. So when I was trying to write Socrates and Plato, XYZ, I looked down at my paper and I wrote, the red balloon flew west. it was something that was completely foreign. I was not thinking about red balloons. I wasn't thinking about direction. It was completely, I didn't know where it came from. It was like someone else had taken hold of my hands.
Wow.
And no matter how hard, well, not no matter how hard, if I thought hard enough, I could write. So I just had to, it was almost phonetic, I had to phonetically spell out Socrates, Plato. So I was able to write my tests and complete it, but I could not write or spell words that involved a contraction or like the, she. Like I was just like, what letter? What letter is, and I'm just A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D, E, T, no, I just could not come up with it. And so I knew at that point something was seriously wrong, but now I entered the stage of denial, like full-fledged denial. Because I knew something's wrong here, but until I know what it is, I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm going to try to be quiet and not let anyone know. So I left, I went through the weekend, just trying to be quiet, trying not to bring attention to myself. Well, not that long, probably one day. By the next day, my roommate was like, we're calling the, RD, the resident director, because you are sick, something is wrong, and you are not being, forthcoming. And so the resident director pulled me out, kicking and screaming, to the infirmary. And they called my mother, who came down. She was up in northern Atlanta at the time, and took me to a hospital around the corner from school. The hospital, so this was a Saturday night, the hospital ended up sending me home because they said a neurologist was not on staff. And they told me, come back Monday. So that's kind of where things stood at that point. So Monday morning, thank God, my uncle, who was a OBGYN in New Orleans, had contacted someone at Emory. And I don't know how if you all know how hard it is to get in with, a specialist, but it's not something that you get like overnight unless you go to ER. Mm-hmm. Well, thank God, the angels were with me. I got in, and he saw me Monday morning at like 8 or 9 in the morning. And within an hour, he determined that I'd had a stroke, but of course he never told me. He still didn't tell me. Wow. And so he said, we're going to go ahead and do some more, investigating and figure out what happened. Well, it turned out I'd had a clot, and it's called an myxoma, but it's a series of blood clots, and they'd attached themselves to my mitral valve. And a piece had broken off and struck my brain, causing me to have the stroke. And they said, well, what you've had is a petit mal, which is a small stroke. So the small stroke had rendered me speechless, or almost speechless. I could talk, but not really. I couldn't form words without a great deal of effort. And it was pretty much single syllable words. Writing extremely difficult, because I couldn't quite get what was here to here without a lot of effort. And I was actually numb on half my body, which I didn't mention before. So it was October 1st that they figured out what was wrong with me. And October 4th, they planned on having the surgery because they needed to remove this tumor before it became more massive and I had a more massive stroke. So my story is I went through this, and I went through that massive stroke, and it really opened up my eyes to an entirely new world. So I've been living like this since I was 18. I guess I kind of ended up with maybe a bit of wisdom before my time, because you start to understand, when you have gifts and when you lose them. And if you are blessed to get them back, it's just a new world. Now it means basically having lost something that I took for granted. So feeling in your body, being able to speak, being able to think, being able to, I like to tell jokes, just being able to think off the cuff, come up with something funny or whatever, being able to pull words that, and speak, certain words that like right now, I'm losing the words, but, it's one of those things where, once upon a time, I would just like wax poetic, and all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, what word am I trying to get? So now is understanding that it's a gift, even if I can't feel, everything all the time or what have you. I understand the gift of our medical teams, the gift of our, physical therapists, the gift of our occupational therapists. our speech pathologists. These are things that you never think about it until you lose it. And I've been through a number of other medical challenges, and each time going through this process of loss and praying for recovery and being able to come back and talk about it. Because I really feel one of the reasons that I recovered is because God knew I would talk about it. And I just want to keep sharing, never giving up hope, and always being positive and always being hopeful, because every day that you're breathing is a blessed day, and it means that there's always an opportunity to do something amazing, and to make a difference, and hopefully inspire someone. So it's just been a really great experience. It's interesting, I guess. For some reason, and this is really crazy, but I know that I used to think about death when I was young. I used to love to write poetry, and I probably still do if I tried. But I really loved to write poetry. But I remember writing about death quite a bit, and but it was never something I was scared of, and it was never something that I was. It's not something that brought me down. Again, it's poetry. I write rhymey poems, and rhymey tends to be kind of happy. So I know I'm weird, but it's something that it's interesting. But I do believe that having had a sense of that, but having never really experienced it, I had most of my adult life with 3 of my grandparents, and never really having experienced death close up. My 4th grandparent had passed when he was like 1, so I never really knew him. But it's interesting. Yeah, I just think that looking at life, and after having gone through things like this, like understanding that you can lose something and you have to be okay with losing it. Like even if you lost something, you didn't lose everything, and it's one of those. It's a feeling of gratefulness, and just being thankful for what it is that you have, and also understanding, and I think it was through the years, as I mentioned, I've had many medical situations and even non-medical situations that have been kind of life-threatening situations. And even through all of that, realizing that when you make it through, there is some story, there is a glimmer of hope, or something to share back. And it's always just empowering.
It is empowering.
And it makes you stronger. I think it makes you stronger too, because I think that one of the things when I think through things and think through what people have said to me, in some cases, oh, you're so strong, you're so this, you're so that. And I'm like, I don't take any of that upon myself. I don't necessarily know that I'm so strong. I think that strength was given to me, but and I am happy to share it. And I think that we can all find it within ourselves. I don't know that we all know that we're as strong as we are, but we are. And you do it because you have to. Like many times we don't do things because you don't have to. But there's a point when something happens, you will find a way. You'll make it happen. And you do it because you have to. And you realize when you do it, you're that much more confident that you can do it again, and that you can help others do it, and almost like training. As much as I hate to work out, it's like training, and you just have to keep working on it and being ready for, okay, God, what if there's another challenge, if there's another story, I'm not saying that God is, responsible per se, but he is for sure who I can't count towards my recoveries and
right.
my being able to be here. And so if there is something else, some other challenge that comes my way, and whoever I'm talking to, if any challenge comes your way, I just pray that you stay focused and faithful, but knowing that you can get through this if you decide. It's in your power to decide to do that. And it's really mind over matter and staying positive. You keep the positive mindset, nothing else matters. So that's what I'm looking at, the blessings around us. It just definitely helps to be able to see and appreciate those things. I mean, because we always have them. Everyone has, I won't say that everyone has someone. I don't mean to be flippant, but I do believe that we have someone, but it's all about our choice. And do we receive that? Do we appreciate that? You know, do we choose to view that as a blessing or a curse? Do we choose to accept that as an opportunity or an obstacle? And it's all in your mindset. And it's, you know, how do you want to move forward? Do you want to let these things block you, or do you want to live your best life? Do you want to, you know, just do the best that you can do? So I'm one who's, as I said way back, you know, I learned when I was 18 that I'm independent and I'm going to figure out this stroke on my own. and I didn't know what it was, but I know I'm going to figure it out. So, you know, it's one of those things where you just decide, well, what is it going to be? You know, am I going to let this sit me down, or am I going to stand up and do what I have to do? And nothing's wrong with sitting down for a while. Again, I'm not shaming any. We all need our time. We all need our space. You know, we all need our time to grieve. And it's whatever time you need is what you need, and no one should tell you what that is.
Right.
But you need to be real with yourself about it. What point do you think it's time to move on? You know, when do you want, are you ready to give up on yourself, or are you ready to give yourself another try? Because you're a pretty amazing person. So I think you should give yourself another try.
Absolutely.
Speaking about situations like this, having gone through, you know, the medical, having gone through, for instance, the loss of a boyfriend. I was in college too. He was killed. Just having gone through a number of things, and realizing that you can stay in one place and never grow, or you can just find ways to continue to grow, and, you know, you just find a new branch. You know, you grow a new branch. You reach out in new ways. And it's much like, you know, when I moved into corporate America, and then I go into branding, and your brand is, you know, who people say you are, but they say who you are based on what they see and hear you do. And so when you live what you want to be, when you live who you want to be, I think that's really critical and important. And so I believe that just thinking through, I mean, this is one really funny story. It's a little side, and you can cut it out if you need to, but it's, I had a car accident, and pretty serious, ran into a tree, fell asleep at the wheel, ran into a tree. I pushed myself too hard. Again, don't let people tell you how long you can go or whatever. You tell yourself what you know you can do. So I pushed myself too hard, fell asleep at the wheel, ran into a tree. Ended up, my leg was in traction up at Mass General in Boston, and they told me that I might not walk again. So I started in a wheelchair, and then I went to a walker and to a lot of different stuff. I was looking at cars because my car was totaled. So I looked at cars with hand controls. I just looked at a lot of things. I went through a whole process. But at one point I decided, and this was a very, very critical moment, I told myself, this was when I passed the crutches stage. I'd made it to the cane. And they were like, well, you pretty much have a cane. And I was like, I'm not using a cane the rest of my life. Like, I am 26, like, hello? I think I was 27. And so I was like, I am not using a cane. So I said, leave this cane. I'm just going out. And so I went out with my friends because I just wanted to be normal, right? Yeah. And I'm walking with 1.5 legs. Okay, I shouldn't say it that way, but the one leg was not as strong as it needed to be. So I'm out and I'm just having a good time. And someone comes up, and, you know, from the outside, I look great. I look normal, you know, and they're like, hey, girl, what's going on? And just boom, and they came and slapped me. I went flying. Oh. It was hilarious because it was my fault. It was okay. I need to go get that cane and let people understand.
There's a little limit here.
Walking on 1.5, I'm not walking on 2. So I need to make, you know, so just in terms of just getting clear about, okay, sometimes we can push ourselves, and then sometimes we can over push ourselves. And, you know, and you kind of get that, okay, where is my comfort place? This is where I'll be, and that I'll continue to work from here. Let me not get overzealous and, you know, overconfident about certain things. But it was just kind of funny, especially as I look back on it, because I mean, I didn't fly, I didn't fall. I caught myself, but it was just kind of funny because everyone's look was of horror, like, oh, you know, kind of fascinating. And it was just kind of funny. But yeah, it's so we have to kind of manage, you know, how far. I know that I'm not going to stay, you know, in the chair, in the wheelchair, But I wasn't quite ready to toss the cane the way I had all my attitude with tossing the cane. So
Right.
just being comfortable and confident in where you are is kind of what I think those types of experiences have taught me. And understanding that, you know, where you are is fine. And there is nothing, you know, there's only one person you have to answer to, and that's God. That's for me. You don't have to answer to anybody else. And what they think about where you are is of no concern. And I think sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves with work, with whatever the case may be, you know, to, you know, trying to modify how we take care of ourselves and handle ourselves. But I think that just having the confidence in myself, and I think each of us should have the confidence in ourselves. We know ourselves better than anyone, including our doctors. And we need to advocate for ourselves and make sure that we know that we're okay, or if something's not right, even if the doctor says it shouldn't be making you feel that way. Well, if it is, it's making me feel this way. So we're gonna have to address it. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be. You might have to add that to the notes so you can change, you know, the prescription next time. So it's just, you know, but we have to make sure that we step up and stand up for ourselves.
Absolutely.